I'm gonna take a page out of Harold's book. Hello and welcome to the Unapologetic Geek. That's what it feels like, Scott. Today we are going to finally finish up disaster movies. I promise there will not be a part 5.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
I mean, we could do a part 5. There's enough of them out there.
We'll just save it for next year or something, okay?
Yeah, disaster movies revisited.
Right.
But
or rebooted.
A couple of quick channel updates for people who are watching, and people who are going to watch after the show. Obviously, people who watch and catch up. Like I don't know if you've seen my community posts or my Facebook posts, but my Quantum Leap reviews have been copyright disputed to hell and back. So I'm not going to be able to put them on YouTube. What I am going to do is I'm going to put them on my Patreon, because I can upload directly to Patreon now, and they don't care about copyright bots. So it's nice. So if you really, really want to see my reviews of the Quantum Leap, just go to my Patreon. I give out the bonus videos even if you only give me $1. It's like, it's nothing. And that shows a little bit of support to me, and you get to see what I think of Quantum Leap, one of my favorite shows of all time. Spoiler alert. I did the first episode hyped up on caffeine, and everybody who's watched it has told me that it's very energetic, so that's good. So instead of my Quantum Leap review today at 2 o'clock Central Time in 2 hours, I'm actually dropping the compilation of all of my Outer Limits reviews in one video. It's like 3 hours long. It took me about 3 years to upload. So there's that. I mean, it's all stuff that's already been on my channel, but now you have it all in one piece. And then maybe next week I will start up with the Outer Limits, and I'll be doing the Outer Limits and Quantum Leap at the same time. I'll do Quantum Leap on my Patreon and Outer Limits on my regular channel, because those aren't that difficult to put together. That's one of the reasons I started doing those, is because they're easier to put together than my main reviews, which take a lot. And then next week I have a review of Superman 2 coming out, so look forward to that. I have watched the regular cut's commentary. I have watched the Richard Donner cut, the Richard Donner commentary, and I have read an entire book about Superman 2, so like I have a lot to say. It might be a really long one. Let's see who's here in the chat. We've got Daryl Johnson was here at 6 o'clock last night. So hello, Daryl Johnson.
That's dedication. Other brother.
He is here now as well. I see him in the chat. Vim Vanderstraten is here as always. Love to see you, Vim. Lance is here. Hiya, Lance. Who else? I know I saw more. Danny Staten is here from South Carolina. Greetings, Danny. He's never gonna let me down, or let me live down the fact that I was wrong about the Titan. My mom is here. Hello. Sean Innes is here. Who else? Wow, there's a lot of people already here. And of course Harold is here. So hello all, and as more people come in, I will of course be saying hi to them, including channel member Indie Spoats. And no, Thrash is not hasn't frozen yet. It's amazing.
Are we taking bets?
I give him 15 minutes.
Oh man, you took my number. Okay, I'll give it 17 and a half minutes.
Okay. Is this Price is Right rules?
21. Yes, whoever's closest. Without going over.
1 minute.
Daryl's already asking the most important question.
Oh, well, I think he's actually inside the couch right now.
I have Pickles the Frog. Weird. Does that count?
There you go.
His name really is Pickles. You can look it up online. It's a Japanese thing. It's weird.
My cats are usually in here like when I'm like streaming or doing whatever like during the week, but it seems like on Sundays they're just like, we've spent too much time with you, so
it's their day off.
Right.
My mom says 16 minutes. Okay, before we get started, one other thing. Happy Father's Day to everybody here who's a father and everybody
Happy
here
Father's
who's a
Day.
son or a daughter. That's everybody. So happy Father's Day. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. And since my list is actually shorter than I think the rest of these guys' list, I'm not going to start this time. I'm going to go ahead and give it to... I'll go ahead and give it to Scott. I'll give it to Harold. He can start.
All right. So my first one is going to be a movie called Save Yourselves. It is a 2020 movie, and it's one that not a lot of people have seen. Sorry, my cardigan's all wrapped up, balled up on my neck. It's one that not a lot of people have seen, but it is fantastic. It is a disaster comedy. I describe it as if Trouble with Tribbles were made into an actual movie on Earth, and it is phenomenal. And basically it's a comedy. It makes fun of like the my people, the what I kind of like this current lost generation, right? The millennials that grew up without parents, didn't develop.
I'm frightened by the idea that there's a whole people out there of Scots. It's very disturbing.
No, just people I love and I appreciate that they are not similar to me, but I appreciate them. This lost generation of millennials where they grew up without parents, developing that sense of identity and feel like they don't know who they are and are constantly trying to figure out and do all of these like little fads, right? Like we're gonna do sourdough starters and these activities to try and define themselves, right? And like, oh, let's try doing this, or let's do this, because they don't have.
And this came out in 2020. That's a good year for sourdough. Yeah.
Right. I know. and so it I know, and it was ahead of its time. Like it was because like that was like, again, March of 2020 was when like COVID really hit us and we started shutting down. And that's, a few months later, everything's like, and so they're recording this like a year or two before COVID. It's brilliant, right?
That's amazing.
And so it's got a lot of unknown cast, but they are phenomenal. I gotta pull up the
Danny beat me to it. I was gonna mention Critters.
Yes. No.
Sounds like Critters.
It's yes, but the thing that I love about it is that it's more of a humanistic exploration that takes place with a Trouble with Critters. And so the plot is they're stressed out by life, and they decide that they want to disconnect, because that's what if you think a few years ago, everybody was cutting off from, I'm going to, disconnect from my phone. I'm going to disconnect from the internet. I'm going to like get away from electronics and try and find myself again. Right. It's called Save Yourselves. All right. It is. And so what they do is they go to a cabin disconnected, and then all of these things happen, and the rationalizations that we come up with to discount what's happening or to normalize what's happening, because you don't know, you're not informed. And so it's really, really smart. It's really, really good. The couple are fantastic. Let me find the cast real fast. The actress is one of my favorite actresses. Sunita Mani. She was in Glow on Netflix about the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, when they made that show about the Glow. It's not the documentary, but like the television show. And Ben Sinclair. Yes, Diane. It's absolutely this indie film that's so good. And
she was Trenton,
really
Mr.
is.
Robot. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I like her.
Yeah, she's really good. She's a really good actress, and it's also it's got Ben Sinclair, but John Reynolds is Ben Sinclair is the one that has the cabin that they go to, but John Reynolds is the other main actor. He's the partner of Sunita Mani, and so they just do a really great job. It's a disaster movie, but it's funny. So it's good. I really liked it. I definitely recommend people going and checking it out.
Okay. I have
Looks-
never
looks
heard of it.
interesting.
It does look cool.
Amy Sedaris is in it, but she's a voice, we'll say. And so again, like there's not a lot of people in it. Because it's mainly these two actors, because again, they're just cut off from the world, right? And it's kind of following their experience. And so there's not a lot of ensemble cast. And so but they do a great job. They do a really great job. And it's interesting. So check it out.
Neat.
Will
Cool.
do.
Yeah.
Will
Okay.
do.
Well, let's go with Thrash now. We'll just go in that order again.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I discovered this one almost by accident, and I'm not sure if anyone else has seen it, but I'm gonna make a case for it. It was a BBC. It was a 3-part TV adaptation of The War of the Worlds. And I can already hear people saying, "How is the War of the World?" Well, stay with me for just a second. This adaptation was kind of slick. It was set in the 19th century, which I wish they would do more. I mean, I have to go back and reread that book. It's on my bucket list. I want to reread War of the Worlds before I die. But modern adaptations are fine, but I really think Wells's time period fit outstandingly, and this one is set in that time period. But it has a really neat angle. Yes, the Martians are defeated, but the implication is that was their plan all along. What was sent down to Earth was just the first wave. It was the shock army. It was sort of like in the TV series where what you saw in the first wave was just the worker cast, like army ants, and they figured that they would die in Earth's atmosphere, but they were intended to not only disrupt the infrastructure, but to basically terraform Earth into Mars. So the last installment, what you see is the aftermath. Yes, the design is really cool. They look like 3-legged spiders. They're really slick. But the Martians are killed. But as was a subplot in the novel, this sort of red algae, this red moss, is taking over everything. There's red spores in the air, so you can barely see the sun. All the crop fields have been taken over this red moss. People are starving. People are looking. They're forming these like small gated communities just to survive. The main character holds up in one which is being run by this sort of fundamentalist Christian cult, which is always something you see popping up in these type of hopeless settings. And it was really interesting, this sort of what would happen in the aftermath of a Martian invasion, which I think is an outstanding concept for a disaster film. So that is kind of the premise of the Canadian TV series back in the 80s. But again, it wasn't post-apocalyptic. They just sort of formed this sort of underground resistance army. In this, it's like, no, Earth is truly messed up. And it's actually, I thought, a really neat concept.
Okay.
What's the name of it?
It's War of the Worlds.
It's War of the Worlds.
Oh.
It was done in 2019. You got to be careful, though, because there was actually 2. There was a 3-part BBC miniseries and also a limited series, I want to say, on Netflix, which is set in contemporary times. But yeah, this is the BBC War of the Worlds.
Yeah, War of the Worlds is public domain now, so.
Oh. So, because Indy asked, is that the one with Robert Carlyle?
Yes. And it's funny, too,
Oh,
because
okay.
Robert Carlyle, I normally see him playing a psychopath. And he's playing this
Train Spotting. Begbie.
Or not Ravenous.
Ravenous,
Yeah. Ravenous.
He's even a Bond
he's-
villain.
He's Rumpelstiltskin in Once too, and a bit of a sociopath. So,
well, there you go. But in this, he plays this very genteel 19th century intellectual scientist, and it's really neat to see him play something so against type. He was really good in it.
Cool. Hold on. Before we go any further, I just want to address the chat real quick. Let's see. We've got Vim was asking if Darren Aronofsky's Noah would count as a disaster movie. I don't think it's on anybody's list, unless it's on Thrash's list. But I would count it, sure. It's a Darren Aronofsky movie, so it's all like metaphorical and symbolic. It's not biblically accurate in any way, but it is a good movie. And I think Russell Crowe and Emma Watson, that's her name, right? Hermione, they're really good in it. And Jennifer Connelly. It's a really good movie. It's very Darren Aronofsky. If you're not ready for it, you're not going to be ready for it. You're not going to enjoy it. He's the guy who did like The Fountain, Requiem for a Dream, Pi, Mother. I mean, this guy makes intense movies that are very like esoteric and hard to like pierce into. So like, if you're not ready for that kind of experience, don't watch it. But I don't know. I do like it, and as spectacle, it's really good. It's Darren Aronofsky with like a really big budget, which I think this is the only time he ever got one. So yeah, I would count it. Sure, it's really good. Lance Chavin asks about The Day After or Threads, which we talked about, I think, in episode 2 or 1.
First episode, I think. Yeah.
One of them.
And, I think it's 1 and 2.
We talked about both of them. So, and let's see. Just a lot of people talking about this and that. Oh, and Warren is here. Hello, Warren. One of my longtime patrons. A little bit of both, actually.
And we talked about some that were disasters for sure.
We talked about that happening last time.
Yeah, I brought it up. It's my fault. Talk about a disaster.
And I think Scott brought up The Flash.
The Flash, yeah.
I brought up The Core in the first episode, which was a disaster of a movie too. So.
Howard the Duck.
And yes, Vim, Robert Carlyle, also 28 Weeks Later.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the whole thing is his fault in the end. In that one,
he becomes a psychopath in that one.
Yeah.
You know, he was a little bit of a psychopath in The Full Monty, and so no.
Oh, I never thought of that. Maybe he's a psychopath. Maybe.
I saw The Full Monty with my brother one year because we had this tradition where we would go to the movie theater and just see every Academy Award nominee for Best Picture. And so when we went in to see The Full Monty, we didn't know what it was about. We didn't know what The Full Monty even meant. We had seen Trainspotting the same way, like not knowing anything about it, and just went in cold. And I gotta say, man, watching movies like these cold like that is great. I was not ready for either Trainspotting or The Full Monty, and they both have Robert Carlyle in them.
Trainspotting's definitely one that you should actually prepare yourself for in some way, shape, or form.
Well, yeah, nowadays I definitely would be a lot more prepared.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyway, I got really sidetracked. Did you have anything else to say about War of the Worlds? Like the idea of there being like a religious fundamentalist group in it. If there's any like apocalyptic story that deserves it, it's War of the Worlds, because it was in the original story. Like there wasn't a big cult or anything. It was really just one guy, but that was where H.G. Wells was able to have his discussion of religion and how the British Empire deals with religion, and it dealt with a lot of different stuff all in one like chapter.
Well, also in times of crisis.
Yeah, in times of crisis and how crazy.
Fervor.
Yeah. I mean, and H.G. Wells was very like
atheistic.
He wasn't trying to be preachy about it. He was actually trying to be more nuanced and thoughtful about it. Which for H.G. Wells was actually like, that was kind of a coup, because he was pretty devoutly atheist. You know what I mean? But War of the Worlds actually has a really interesting religious undertone to it. That's the one thing that the Steven Spielberg adaptation tried to put in a little bit with Morgan Freeman's monologue, which is ripped straight out of the book. But, you know, it's still hard to get past that Fanning scream. Anyway, yeah. Did you have anything else to say about it, Thrash? I haven't seen it, so.
Well, no. I mean, I really just wanted to show how it actually held water as a disaster.
Good.
Because normally we don't think of War of the Worlds. We think of War of the Worlds almost as a war movie, but this is attacked it more as a disaster flick, and I thought it fit very nicely for the purposes of our conversation.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, D-Man.
All right. So no series on disaster movies is complete without discussing 2012. So,
Oh,
which is the mother of all disasters, really, when you think about it. You know, so neutrinos are heating up the Earth's core. I'm sure everybody's seen the movie, and which is going to cause a crustal displacement, which is where the entire crust of the Earth kind of slides around on the mantle, causing huge tsunamis and death to us all, kind of thing. So the governments of the world and all the rich people get together to save themselves, of course, mostly, and a few of the little people if they make it on the list, of course. Those that are useful, at least. And
The
to
servant
build all
class.
these, yes, exactly, to build all these ships to save themselves and hopefully continue the human race. And you know, all kinds of things ensue in between, lots of adventure and excitement. And you know, LA falls into the ocean, and that was interesting. So, and you know, lots of flying acrobatics in very large planes that can't do that. You know, lots of plot holes, of course, and ridiculousness, but overall, a disaster movie of disaster movies. You know, like everything is falling apart. The world is, you know, I mean, the friggin' what was it? A tsunami takes, you know, destroys Washington D.C. and New York and everything, and you know, watching all of that happen was, of course, interesting. So
the thing I like about Roland Emmerich disaster movies is that
Yeah.
he just keeps ratcheting it up.
Yeah.
Like with every
Oh, yeah.
movie, it gets bigger and bigger
It's
and bigger.
bigger
And
and bigger, yeah.
2012 is like even bigger than Day After
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then he did Moonfall, which is
Yeah.
even bigger than 2012.
Actually, I meant to watch Moonfall and I haven't yet. But yeah. Oh, but yeah, it's just it's one of those movies where it's just like the scope of the disaster is just so over the top, and it's like, well, this can't really happen.
It's when you get to that point where like the city is just like going like this, and John Cusack's in his car and he's like driving in them
Yep.
like ramps from
Yep.
one crust section to another. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, I love John Cusack.
I do too.
I'm a
He's
huge
great.
fan, and I thought he did a great job in this movie too. So
It's a fun, stupid
Yep.
movie. Yes,
Mhm.
as all Roland Emmerich movies are.
yeah.
Popcorn
yeah, just-
movie, I think, covers it.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, most definitely.
So of course have to bring up a movie like that because, you know, what's a list of disaster movies without one of the most over the top disaster movies there is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Definitely deserves a mention. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't talk about disaster movies without talking about Irwin Allen and Roland Emmerich, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we've already
And-
covered
and-
Irwin Allen.
Yeah.
So
And you know, and again, on top of it, like the whole like the Mayan calendar aspect
Yeah,
of it,
that
like
part too,
right,
yeah.
like that you know,
that shit actually said a bad word. That stuff actually scared me when I was a kid, and I heard
Yeah.
about the whole Mayan calendar ending in 2012, and nobody
Ends,
knows
yeah,
why.
it ends.
Just because that's just where it ends.
It's
Right.
just cycling into another
nothing.
Bacton
Means
or whatever
nothing.
they're called, you know. So
I remember seeing some weird documentary on like the
Mhm.
Discovery Channel where it's like some mathematician was like trying to like do this like weird psychohistory thing and predict the future using math, and it just
All right,
stops
Harry.
at 2012 for some reason, just like the Mayan
was
calendar.
it the guy
I'm
with
like,
the big hair? Like
"Ah!" No, it's not that guy, not the alien. Guy.
aliens, man. It's aliens.
Every time I think of the Mayan calendar, all I can think of is the Harlan Ellison short story where they needed a script for the Star Trek franchise. And he swore after he wrote City on the Edge of Forever because he had such a horrible experience writing it.
Did we lose Harold the Hatter?
Instead
no,
of
I'm
me
here.
this
I'm here.
time.
I just
Oh, okay.
Oh,
ahead.
he
It's fine, it's
froze. He became an icon. He swore he would never write for Star Trek again, but I guess they like offered him all kinds of money, so he puts together this screenplay, and it's typical Ellison, you know, big grandiose plot, and he presents it to him, and he gets a phone call from people from Paramount. We love your script, but is there any chance you could add the Mayans? He goes, the Mayans. What do the Mayans have to do with my? They wanted him to do a tie-in with 2012, but he was like really indignant. He's like, no, but this has nothing to do with the Mayans. And the guy said, oh, okay, well, we'll get back to you. And they hung up on him and never called him again. But every time I think of the Mayan calendar, for some reason, I have a flashback to that Harlan Ellison story.
That's funny.
Mhm.
The
I hadn't heard that
Mayans.
one.
No, that's great.
Mhm.
But it goes to show you also like how many, you know, when it comes to producers, like here we have these artists, right, that want to do something, that have such creative minds, that have such beautiful ideas and things like that. And then people that have MBAs that are not creatively minded, but really want to be, um, determine what our entertainment is, right? More so than the creatives who have the vision and everything, because you have somebody who you know doesn't have a insight in their own limitations, and wants to be views themselves greater than they actually are, and gets in the way of really good art. And so that's,
Oh,
to me, I'm always like the dynamics
Mhm.
of like bad movies, and when a movie's bad, like there's so many different influences that contribute to why movies are bad, that we put so much on one particular person. Maybe it's an actor, or, like Daredevil and Ben Affleck, or what, like
Ben
the
Affleck was not the
you know,
problem with that movie.
yeah, right.
Ben Affleck was actually fine.
Right. He was like, I really like, again, this is my, like, I really like Ben Affleck as an actor. I really like, you know, a lot of the roles that he does. And he gets such a bad rap when there's so many things he doesn't want to, Sean, yeah, like that's what, you know what? Thank you. That's what I was looking at. Sorry. I was trying to fix my lighting. But yeah, that's sort of my thought on some of these, like, some of these movies, and whether they're good or bad or whatever. And so
It's all subjective anyway. But I
Yeah.
did want to say hi to Sean, Keithy, another one of my longtime patrons.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Do. And yeah, I don't remember where it is, but Vim at some point said something about everybody's been predicting the end of the world since the start of the world, basically.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
actually make a point about that. And, I remember in our lifetimes, there's been some major things where people predict the end of the world. There was, like, I think in some religious leader that was predicting it in 1993.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there was the whole, year 2000, Y2K, it's the end of the world. And then other people were saying, oh, and actually the calendar got changed at one point, so it's not really until 2003.
Right,
Right.
right.
And then the Mayan calendar ended in 2012, and it was just like one after another, and then people talking about peak oil and so on and so forth after that. So it's just the world's been ending my entire life.
I'm pretty sure the whole ozone layer was supposed to be gone, and we're all
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
dead from solar radiation by like
Yeah,
2010 or something.
Yeah, back in the 80s, that was a big thing. Yeah, so
well,
yeah,
well,
we,
Todd,
we've
didn't
it's been
you
the end of
post
the
that
world since I
thing?
was born. So
A while back, like when I was a kid, there was a solar system line. All the planets were supposed to line up,
Oh
And
yeah,
that
the
was-
the
Yeah.
convergence.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
and it was going to cause everyone to jump one orbit.
Yep.
So we would all overnight go into Mars's orbit and freeze to death.
hey, that would
Nothing
fix
happened.
global warming, though. I mean,
hey, I'm
we'd all
built
need to
for
get some
that.
really good
though.
coats.
Like if we had to do that, I'd be
Mhm.
okay. I'm nice and warm and cozy. And so
At that point, we just burn all
Syzygy,
the
that's what it's
fossil
called. Thank you,
fuels,
Indy. I knew Indy would come through with the word.
Mhm.
Convergence is like the Marvel word for it. But that actually spirals perfectly into my first choice today, which is The Day the Earth Caught Fire. Is it on your list? It's a bit more obscure than 2012, but it's worth noting. This was Val Guest, the guy behind Quatermass and a bunch of Hammer horror movies and stuff. He'd wanted to make a movie about nuclear fear forever. Like he always wanted to make one, but the higher ups kept telling him no, nobody wants to hear about the bloody bomb, right? And so because his movie he wasn't disguising it. He wasn't making like a giant monster movie like Godzilla. That's about nuclear war, but it's also about a giant lizard, or like the big monster movies from the 50s that had like nuclear panic elements to them but weren't directly about the bomb. In this movie, the bombs, like there's been this weird test of like a whole bunch of simultaneous nuclear explosions at one part of the world, and it's tilted the entire Earth off its axis, and the Earth is now spiraling into the sun. That's the plot of the movie. But like he takes a really interesting tack in that, like, the movie's not so much about the disaster. It's just about this one guy, this struggling alcoholic reporter whose life is spiraling out of control, and him trying to regain some kind of control over his life as the earth is spiraling into the sun. It's actually really interesting and really well done, especially since the movie was made on a micro budget. Like, he basically had no money to work with because, like I said, the studio execs wanted nothing to do with this movie. So he was able to pull it all together with nothing. And he based it a lot on his own experiences in life. Like, he'd previously been a reporter, and so, like, a lot of this movie takes place in a newsroom talking about the end of the world. I don't know. It's a really fascinating character study and a really interesting movie that has a very open ending that is deserved. Like, usually if there's an open ending, sometimes I'm like, this is just, it's an open ending for an open ending's sake. It's because they didn't know how to end it. It's kind of frustrating and stupid. As much as I love Inception, I don't like the ending, you know, that kind of thing. But this movie, it deserves it. It really does deserve the open ending. So yeah, that's all. I just wanted to mention The Day the Earth Caught Fire because I freaking love it, and I have done a video on it.
Yes.
We've spoken on it too, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We have talked about it before.
And, and you're right about that sort of open ending. The idea of, spoiler alert, people. Deep down, everyone pretty much knows the Hail Mary play. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's a Hail Mary for a reason. Yeah,
but they're all like, "Hey, we still got this one chance, huh, gang? We can still pull it out of the hat." And it's like you just kind of like, you know.
Well, I mean, and like I said, it's about the main character who's an alcoholic, and the whole idea of him like, okay, I'm putting down the bottle for real this time. That is in and of itself a Hail Mary, right?
It is
just as unlikely.
What is his name, by the way? Because he was in Island of Terror as well.
Oh, that actor, yeah, he was also in like Food of the Gods or something. No, not Food of the Gods.
No,
Men on the Moon.
First Men on the Moon. First Men on the Moon.
Yeah. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Let me look it up real quick.
And Leo McKern like steals.
Oh, he's the best part of the
role.
movie. Absolutely,
he really is. He really is.
Edward Judd, right? He kind of looks like a bizarro version of the guy from The Mist. Thomas Zane, that guy.
I always said he looked more like the professor from Gilligan's Island.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I give you that.
Only a little more buff.
Yeah. And yeah, he finds reasons to take his shirt off a lot in this movie because that's just what he does. But in this movie, it's deserved because like the world is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and like at the end of the movie, as the world is at peak hotness, they've like they tint the screen like it was black and white, but the last reel is like monochrome red.
Yeah,
So it's actually very fascinating. It's pretty cool.
It's a great movie.
I will say Edward Judd kind of looks like he would be the father for Corey Stoll.
All the different actors Edward Judd looks like.
No. Or Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
I think I'm sexy. Yeah.
I would friend the heck out of me.
Hello, Sarah. I hope you get your
Sarah.
horrible internet situation fixed soon.
I know. Like Sarah, like I am so sorry, darling. The world is not a much worse place without you on the internet.
Indy, as always, comes through with the important fact checks. Peak hotness is actually Matilda May in Life Force, and I have to agree.
Tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
There are things I could say, but I'm not going to.
Little innuendo and hyperbole. Yeah, she was a. The sad thing is, when that movie came out, she was a sexy older woman. Now I'm a dirty old man.
My, how the turntables.
God, it's been
Life is
years
fair.
since I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Waltzing with Matilda. Waltz.
Yeah, Keith, the only moderator I have, I think, is Sarah. So you know, and if you say something that gets Sarah to kick you off, you've definitely done something wrong. Okay, yeah, I'm caught up on the chat. So, Scott, your turn.
I am gonna go because again, I'm trying to be mindful of this because I tend to focus on more of the here and now or the more recent, right? That recency bias. But I think that the audience has made a very valid complaint, because there's so many older ones that we don't bring up, or that, and especially I haven't. So I'm going with Crack in the World.
Ooh, nice. I've been trying to get my hands on a copy.
That one I really, really like. It's free on Tubi or Plex for anybody that wants to watch it and hasn't, or wants to watch it for free. Like basically, dropping a nuke inside the middle of the Earth, into the Earth's core. The scientists are making complaints. The financial people are dismissing these things, and the politicians are, this is going to be okay. Those in power are, there's like this conflict, and we don't listen to the scientists, and we don't listen to the facts. And so ultimately, greed and our lesser evils, I guess, or our lesser virtues tend to overpower us and lead to disaster. And it's a really, really like, I watched it because I was trying to, like, all of the ones that I think of are tend to be more recency bias. And so that's one that I had watched for the first time and felt like it was an excellent movie. And I appreciate the audience, like, bringing up some of our commentary to get me to look a little bit more deeper. So anyways.
No, believe it or not, I haven't actually seen it. It's like very close to the top of my list of movies that I'm trying to get my hands on so I can watch it and do a video on it, because I know how like big and important and how much of a following it has, but I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I could just go on Tubi and watch it, but I kind of just want to wait until I get my hands on it,
On a copy?
Yeah. I don't know why. I'm OCD like that.
No, I get it. No, I totally.
It definitely fits. In fact, one of the things I'm very refreshed about is I'm not the only one who seems straitjacketed by science fiction. It's like they're all disaster films, but we seem just irresistibly drawn to sci-fi angle disaster films, and I think it speaks well of all of us.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we do. No surprise.
No real surprise. And it's funny how often the two go together.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, a big thread in science fiction ever since, Mary Shelley has been like science run amok, science doing something terrible. And the idea that science can do something so catastrophic that it ends the world, that's pretty common since World War II,
Absolutely.
Not Mr. Pickles, but Piper.
Oh, there's Mr. Pickles.
Nice.
Piper.
No, Piper.
Oh, that's Piper.
Yep.
Different P. No, the thing that I like about it, because I think it's a reflection on our society, right? Because if we look at it, our technology, like every 50 years, just exponentially grows like so far more rapidly than are emotionally prepared for. And so these movies hearken to that. Like, I heard like the head of the Catholic science department, and their research and all this. He's the head of their scientific department, right? And they asked him about the balance between, how do you balance science with your faith, right? And the way that he kind of described it is, science is the how and his faith is the why, right? And I really like that concept, regardless of whether you have faith or not, that especially nowadays, we don't emphasize ethics as much, right? That we're now excusing, and dismissing unethical behaviors by our politicians just because they're on our side, right? Because we win. and right, and we focus on like the younger generation and their lack of ethics, but we don't focus on ourselves, right? And we're the ones that's teaching the generation behind us, right? And so that self reflection, and so I think these movies hearken to that. It is great that we have this information and this knowledge, but what is it without the heart? What is it without the values? What is it without the ethics? And so being able to have that balance is, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something, and we should always think about the consequences, right?
It's the old debate between Arthur C. Clarke and Robert Heinlein. Arthur C. Clarke said that people would evolve with their technology, that like technology would lead to like a new branch of humanity that is more pure. It's very Gene Roddenberry. Whereas Heinlein was like, no, people make technology to reinforce what they already are, and they're not going to change because people don't really change. And that's like a big debate in sci-fi, like futurist sci-fi, that like you have to pick a side if you're going to write something in the future. Like, have people changed or haven't they? And
well, but it
who knows?
So this goes to my, and again, this is a little bit of a debate of mine, but like this goes to, I think Gene Roddenberry is right, but here's the issue is that, and this is a complaint of mine, when do we start to really learn about the humanities? When you get into college, right? When you get out of primary school, that's when you study the humanities. You get some kind of things in elementary, but more and more of those are getting pulled out. So you don't get to learn how to be a human being until you get to college, and only 25% of Americans go to college, right? So if we taught humanities at the start, if we taught ethics and psychology and art and things, then we could grow with then we could be like the Arthur C. Clarke and grow with our technology. But because we don't create the foundation, then we do get into that rationalization and the mental defenses and the psychological defenses and things like that. Sorry. Yeah, no, Sean,
tangent, but worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So I think that's at the heart of these disaster movies, is that debate, right? Of, when we get into these scientific, when it's us that's doing the destruction. So anyways, sorry, my apologies.
No, that was actually, I wish I could come back with, because you made some actually great points there, which I wish I could absorb and give more feedback on, but that would completely derail the show. But I think
we got to keep moving.
Outstanding points, and I want to, Scott, thank you very much for that.
Yes, good points, but yes.
Okay, whose turn was it? I don't even remember.
Thrash.
Okay, Thrash's turn.
It's Thrash.
Cool. And I saw Mr. Vim, by the way, just mentioned Nostradamus, and I'm glad he did, because my next choice is going to speak to that. Not the same movie he was talking about, but I'm going to go with, I believe it was the 1979 Japanese disaster film, The Last Days of Planet Earth, which is two things. It's actually an eco-disaster film and a love letter to the works of Nostradamus. And if any nation could pull that off, it was the Japanese. It's basically the 70s recognition that the biosphere is in trouble due to pollution, overconsumption, and that type of thing. Same thing, Godzilla versus the smog monster. But they parallel that.
Just without the heavy dose of acid,
Without the heavy dose of acid. But they replace that with periodic, let's just say soft interpretations. Interpretations with a little artistic license of the works of Nostradamus. And the whole it's really more of a series of vignettes. I mean, there is a story arc. There are some I guess you would call them recurring characters, but it just shows like what's going on. I mean, they go into Indonesia and they find these giant devil bats have evolved in response to the pollution. Parasitic slugs are taking over in garbage dumps. Vast food shortages due to crop failures. The whole thing plays out like London Calling by The Clash, and the whole time they keep referring desperately to these works of Nostradamus, and it really shows what some of the things that would happen in a declining world would be. In the UN, the other nations turn at each other, and everyone starts pointing the finger at each other. A lot of nations close their borders because they can only cope with their own people. You see these death cults arise, particularly in Japan, where almost if the world's not in fast enough for them, you see these people do these massive, I can't say the word on YouTube, but they, as a demonstration, perform a mass group of self-harm just to make a statement. What the statement is, I was never quite sure. But it's a really, really intense, although sometimes wacky film, and I can't recommend it enough. There were two versions out there. There's the American version and the Japanese version. Stick with the Japanese. It's a little more coherent. And again, it doesn't just go into contemporary history. It shows what the long term, like literally what the last days of Earth will look like. And I thought it was very nicely done.
The whole death cult thing reminds me of Shunriko, the Japanese death cult that like really did exist in real life and tried to release sarin into the subway system. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And they did have like a mass unaliving ceremony at one point. Yeah. So that movie kind of predicted that. That's creepy.
Well, in the movie though, it's just themselves. They're not trying to inflict it on others. It's
right.
Which so it's a little less malevolent, but interesting parallel. I never thought of that. Thank you.
Yeah, just popped in my head.
Wow.
But no, that's great. I haven't seen it. I haven't even heard of it, but it sounds great. I really want to see it.
I haven't seen it yet either, and it's now on my list. So
I found it free. It's going to be in our in the descriptions for this show. That I found it free on the Internet Archive. So I love that.
I found it on Wikipedia as Prophecies of Nostradamus. So yeah.
It's got like 3 or 4 different titles.
That happens.
There's a Japanese title. There's
Okay, so let's keep moving. Scott, your turn. Or not Scott.
Oh, it's my turn.
Sorry. What kind of host am I?
All right, so
the host of the most.
I'm gonna go with another recent movie. Just because I really like this movie. And I don't know if it's really a disaster movie. A disaster happens, which is the reason for the whole movie. So The Martian is what I'm going with here. Because there is a disaster at the beginning where the windstorm or whatever, which is far more powerful than it would actually be on Mars, because Mars's atmosphere is like, what, 10% as thick as ours or something like that. So yeah, unlikely that there would be that much force exerted on them, but there would be dust and particles and whatnot. But anyway, so
it would still be bad. It just wouldn't look as dramatic because
true.
Martian surface is a lot like the moon lunar surface in that it's got a regolith of its own, and regolith is basically just sleet. So even a little wind brushing that against like the end of your station would cause damage.
More to the point that the wind was powerful enough to, start to push over the rocket.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Powerful enough to like rip the antenna off its thing and puncture his suit and stuff. Anyway, it's like, no, it wouldn't be that bad. No, I mean, yes, it would be very, very dusty and you wouldn't be able to see. So that the premise behind it is a little weak, but then everything else in the movie is really friggin' cool after that. So, so he's left alone. Matt Damon playing, what was his name again? The main character. Crap.
I don't remember.
Mark Watney.
Right, Watney.
Watney, yeah. So he's left alone on Mars. They all take off, and he's got to like fend for himself now. And he doesn't have enough. It's going to take him 3 years to get to him or something. Once they figure out that he's alive, because they all think he's dead, and so he's got to figure out how to survive for 3 years, and he's only got enough food for one, or not even that. So yeah, it's like, how are you going to do that? So he's got to science the crap out of it, as he says in the movie. So it's just, I like the way they hit for one, his character, and we are joined by Morris. Look at that.
Morris
Got one of the cats here today. Morris. Where's your little brother? Okay. Anyway, so where was I? I've been interrupted by a cat. Huh?
Growing food.
Oh yeah, he's got to figure out how to grow food, And, you know, a little bit of that was, you know, it's possible, but Martian soil is also very, very toxic. So some of it,
It
it's
doesn't
like
have any nitrates.
yeah, it doesn't have any nitrates, but it also has other things in it that are hard to get out of the soil. I can't remember exactly what it is, but there's like another chemical in there that you wouldn't want to try to grow food in. So, and I can't remember exactly what it was. I'd have to do my research again. But so it's a little, you know, it's one of those things like, yeah, kind of, sort of. But, you know, he ultimately grows potatoes and then more disasters ensue. You know, he loses all the air and loses his crop and he's forced to live with what he's got. You know, solve, you know, as he puts it in that movie, you know, when you have a problem, you have to solve it. Then you have to solve another problem. And then there's going to be another problem. You're going to solve another problem. You're going to keep solving problems until you make it through. And I just like the whole way the movie was kind of structured and him, like, you know, the main character, you know, first of all, it's got a lot of humor in it. It's funny, you know, it's kind of dork humor, but it's, you know, it's funny. It's, you know, they
We
just
can all
walk,
appreciate that here.
yeah, exactly. That's my whole point. So, you know, just walking through one problem after another and how he solves it and just all the little solutions to everything. There's a lot of it is very realistic, and backed by science and so on and so forth. And, ultimately how they get him off the planet and everything with like stripping down the spaceship down to nothing. You know, it's a seat and a rocket, basically. Like, you know, it's like, who was the old legend of the Chinese guy that strapped a bunch of rockets to a chair and flew to the moon?
That, right.
You know, it reminds me of that. It was it Wang Hu or I should know this because anyway.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Didn't it just explode? Like
What?
a big firecracker? Didn't it just go boom?
Who?
Like, the
If it
rocket-
happened
yeah.
at all. Yeah.
If it happened at all,
Yeah,
I
there's a
really-
couple of different on that was it
Wanhu, apparently.
Wanhu, yeah. There's a couple different legends. They're not quite sure, but it's like they, you know, they lit it and there's one legend where he flew up and that's the last they saw of him. And there's another one where it just simply says he disappeared in a cloud of smoke and fire.
more likely.
You know, more along the lines of he exploded.
like the coyote. You know,
Yeah,
boom.
exactly.
Pieces
So
of
there's-
them are still landing to this day.
Yeah. So there's a few different versions of that story. But yeah, that's always one of my favorite ones from way back in the day when I took aerospace engineering, and they talked about, like, that was one of the first stories in the book, the textbook was, and in the beginning rocketry started with this guy doing this. So
Technically, it did.
yeah, this first attempt.
Got to start somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah. So, you know, anyway,
Roanoke
So, yeah, it's,
rocketry.
good movie. Overall, just, you know, I like the way it's put together in the story and, you know, the character
No,
development.
you bring up an interesting like subset of disaster movies where it's like a solo disaster movie where like one person has to survive on his own
Yeah.
through adversity and stuff like that. You can come up with a list of those kind of movies. and
Castaway would be
yeah.
one like that.
Castaway,
Yeah.
127
Robinson
hours.
Crusoe.
Yeah, Robinson
Yeah.
Crusoe,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And also, yeah, The Martian's a great movie. It's nuts and bolts storytelling. Like,
Yeah.
you know what he has to do and all the obstacles he has to face on the way and how he combats those obstacles. But it does it in a way that like shows off scientific empirical thinking, which even though, yeah, some of the details are woefully inaccurate, it's still like showing you how the thought process should work. And honestly, if you are going to try to grow something on Mars, potatoes are probably your best bet because
Yeah,
potatoes
true.
will grow just about anywhere. They don't
True,
even
true.
necessarily need soil.
Yeah. He could have grown it in some old like rags and some water and it probably would have grown. But
Yeah, it's like the old trick of like starting potatoes by just like putting them in water with a toothpick, you know? Yeah.
You like I've got one particular potato that I didn't bake soon enough, and I'm like, let's see how far this goes because it's already the eyes are already starting to grow and
It'll
it's
start
just
crawling on the wall, you know?
It's just sitting.
I had an
sitting
onion do
and-
that a couple weeks back. I was like,
I mean, like
the
they're
forgotten onion,
amazing.
the forgotten onion in the back of the drawer that had a big old green sprout sticking out of it. And I
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
definitely.
I might have to plant that.
it's sometimes like, you know, the will to survive is amazing, right?
And that's the point of the movie, and that's kind
Yeah,
of like that's what
exactly.
potatoes are used as a metaphor for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got the subtext. Good job.
2 thumbs up.
No, it's a great movie. Anybody else have anything to say about The Martian? Because I love it.
I love it. I think it's really, really well done. I think it's really, really fun. It's just it's an excellent movie. And I think they do a really good job. I like how you get the back and forth between like what they're trying to do on Earth to rescue, the thought process, the different groups and personalities of each of the characters, kind of like, and I think that because my wife works in the field, and I think some of them play it really, really well.
He means
so
the
there's some-
aerospace field, not that she's out picking the cotton right now in the field.
She's like she works in rocketry, and it's some of the personalities are very, very dead. I can think of a number of her coworkers that I'm like, that is this person from that movie. So I think that they did a good job with that. And then I just think it overall it's a really good movie, regardless of the scientific accuracies or because you got to make a movie, right? Like it is as fun as we think rocketry is. It is so boring. It is so boring. When you look at like the analysis that they do and they run, you're like, are you serious? And
It's interesting to them, Scott. It's interesting to them.
No,
They're like,
absolutely.
is it going to work this time in the simulation?
No.
Is it going to work?
No, but but no. Like the nut and bolts of it all, like you have to do it and stuff like that. But like, no, like there's dull parts of and this has some. It's not as interesting as a movie. And if you're watching a movie of that, you would walk right out, right? So that's why I say like you got to have some artistic license to some of this to make it interesting, because it gets really boring. But but ultimately, go ahead.
Well, it's like Quantum Leap. It's like, just show me a few cool moves so I can trash bozos. No. It's years of training and discipline. That's science.
Yes.
Little kids get interested in science because they want like lightsabers and X-Wing fighters and to clone dinosaurs. And it's like, no, science doesn't work like that. Well, then I'm out.
It's also worth noting. It's worth noting that the guy who wrote the book, Andy Weir, he was just a computer programmer and a science fiction nerd, and it was self-published at first. So the guy's kind of close to my heart. I love the guy.
I didn't realize that it was self-published.
It was originally self-published, and then it got picked up. Yeah.
Wow. One of my favorite parts of that movie is when he starts talking about like being the first. Well, first of all, he's like, I'm the first Martian, or the first colonist of Mars,
right,
or colonizer of Mars, and then later he's like, I'm a space pirate. It's like, he walks through how he's in this, and just when they go back to Earth and they're like mission control's like, they're like kind of sort of making a little bit of fun of him when he talks about stuff. It's like, yes, we know he explained it to us already that he's the first space pirate.
Well, that's one of the cool things about his character. In other movies where people just like descend into madness over time because of isolation, he actually manages to keep his cool because he never loses his sense of humor. Like at any point,
he gets excited about it at points too.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And that keeps the movie fun and light.
Yeah.
Speaking of that author, one of my hopes is that like another self-published book, I don't know which one, but another self-published book
2 thumbs up
were to like get picked up and get published like just in a similar way, because it's worthy of that. So anyways.
No, I mean that sounds interesting. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
No idea.
You know what?
No, not a clue.
Check out the book.
I guess that memes it's my turn now.
Yep, sure is.
I always manage to squeeze in Godzilla somewhere, so I'm going to do that here, because Godzilla fits every genre of movie. But this time I'm going to talk about specifically Shin Godzilla, which was not the most recent one, not Godzilla -1, but the one before that. Shin Godzilla it's Godzilla as a disaster movie, like straight up. It's all about it's very clearly about Fukushima, because it's all about a typhoon and a nuclear disaster, and then Godzilla comes out from the bay. Just, I mean, it's and a lot of the movie is, a lot of people don't like it. People who like Godzilla movies tend to really dismiss this one because there's a lot of people in meetings talking, and it's all about like the ineffectiveness of Japanese bureaucracy. But that's exactly what it's supposed to be about, because that was one of the side effects of Fukushima, was that people realized that Japanese bureaucracy was getting in the way of solutions, that like people needed to come up with solutions quickly, and bureaucracy was making that impossible. So that's what Shin Godzilla is about, is like, this is a disaster that could have been solved early, but they couldn't do it early because there were just so many artificial barriers being put in place. And then how the media reacted to it, and how they lionized certain people who didn't necessarily need to be lionized, which is something that happened in Fukushima and happens every time there's a natural disaster of any kind. And yeah, and then the actual Godzilla in it is it's a very weird Godzilla. It's kind of like it's a more Lovecraftian Godzilla, because it was designed by the same guy who wrote Neon Genesis Evangelion, for all you anime nerds. I really, really like this movie. And yeah, it's kind of a slog if you go in expecting a typical Godzilla movie and just a lot of disaster porn. It has that, not nearly as much as you probably want, but it does have that. But yeah, it's mostly about the people, and the people who fail, and the people who rise up in their place. Like the younger people managing to organize in despite of the bureaucracy and find solutions despite the bureaucracy. And they're the ones who are able to put Godzilla down in the end. Spoiler alert. I really dig the way Godzilla can be used as metaphor for something that obviously, that clearly, like Godzilla originally was supposed to be that kind of a metaphor for, the Lucky Dragon incident and the hydrogen bomb. So yeah, that's all. I love Shin Godzilla, and I don't think it gets nearly enough respect in the Godzilla community.
I haven't seen it, so
It's really good. I really like it.
You made a very good case. Is it available, Scott?
Oh, sorry. What's that?
Where can one find the Shin Godzilla?
It's rent or purchase.
Oh, that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Toho doesn't like to give away their stuff for free.
No.
Yeah, it's not streaming. Yeah. Sorry, I was doing some background work, trying to find. I'm trying to see if I can find somewhere where we can get it free, or to stream it or whatever. But yeah, no, that's. Sorry about that.
Hello,
Toho
Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. Yeah, Toho, they're like the BBC. It's like, nope. It's a cartoon from 40 years ago. Nope.
Yeah. It's one of the main reasons I don't cover even more Toho movies, is because every time I do it, I have to deal with the copyright headache for a couple of weeks before I can publish it, and it's always annoying. But at least they do eventually relent, like unlike Universal, which will not leave me alone.
Indeed.
But that's inside baseball. Sorry. Anybody else have any of you seen Shin Godzilla?
None of such.
Wow. Okay. Well,
I didn't even
I
know
recommend
it
it.
existed.
Here's what I wanted to bring up, though, because you talk about like it wasn't not that some people have some issues with it, or and everything. So when I was looking it up, like, because again, I'm trying to put the like the review scores with it, right? So that as people are going through,
well, I'm sure its Rotten Tomatoes score is great. Yeah.
It's 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 4.8 out of 5 on Crunchyroll, and it's but it's
well, that's all those Evangelion fans.
But it's 60% on IMDb, and so it's kind of like
a very divisive movie. Yeah.
If you are a movie enthusiast, if you are, again, to me, what that says is if you're if this is your wheelhouse, you're gonna love it. If you're a passer, right? Like if you're more of a transient to this, or like you're like, I'll watch this, a Godzilla movie when it's a blockbuster that comes out or something like that, and enjoy it, then you may not like this one as much, right? And so that's where I think it kind of comes, is that this, if you because it gets into if you like the politics, if you like the discussion. In fact, one of the reviews that I was actually looking at when Thrash asked me was a guy that was going out of his wheelhouse. He's like, this is out of my wheelhouse, but I wanted to review this movie. And he ultimately, it sounded like he liked it, right? But it's something different from what he usually does. And so
he does have very
about,
goofy, googly eyes when he first comes out of the bay. He looks really weird. He doesn't look anything like Godzilla when he first comes out of the bay. He's like this weird salamander thing. Yeah, because he evolves as the movie goes on, very quickly evolves as the movie progresses.
Nice. Gotcha. That's awesome.
But I do recommend it. Highly recommend it. I recommend it to Thrash just because I think you should see every Godzilla movie. And I recommend it specifically to you, Scott. I think you would really, really like it. I think the politics of it would really speak to you.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like, again, if you have certain wheelhouses, like this movie is going to be something that you really, really enjoy. And also like, if you like, character development or like getting into the mindsets of people, it sounds like that's.
Yeah, this is definitely a Godzilla movie where the actual Godzilla story takes like a secondary role to the actual like character study of like people in large groups. It's not even really individuals so much as groups of people. So a lot of people, especially Western audiences, I think, have a hard time wrapping their brain around that. So that's all. It's a good movie. Highly recommend. So Scott, your turn.
So I'm going to do something a little bit atypical, but can I bring up two that are basically a similar movie from different perspectives? If that's okay.
Okay, sure.
So the two movies that I want to bring up are Sully and Flight. Because so if you've seen those movies, similar kind of perspective, that it's an airplane, right? That it's an airplane disaster. Sully is Sully Sullivan, with the New York plane that got hit by the birds and had to land in the New York
geese,
harbor.
Scott. Canadian geese brought that plane down. Don't cross the
They're
geese.
They're coming
man.
for us, right? That was a terrorist attack from them.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't realize
that was a message from the Canadian geese.
That's funny. That's great.
Exactly.
Sorry, running joke.
And so the reason I bring this up, that it's one's fictional, like there's these contrasts to them, right? One's based on true events, one's fictionalized, right? One's a hero, one's they're both great pilots, but one's a hero, one's got some issues, right? And how they kind of handle these situations are really unique. Sully Sullenberger had to go before Congress. Had to go before the board, the airplane, pilots board or whatever, and review this case. And they wanted to really like critique him. And I think scientifically, when someone brings up a hypothesis or research or whatever, it's always kind of right, and it's not necessarily an attack. But I didn't watch the actual board, but like when I saw this, and I was like, how fictionalized was this? It did seem like they really tried to make it his fault, right? And and again, you've got airplane company wanting to avoid lawsuits. You've got a number of different powerful groups that are trying to avoid lawsuits.
Well, they all want a CYA, yeah.
Exactly, right? And so, hey, let's make these pilots the fall guys, right? And it turned out like, no, he was a hero. He wasn't doing anything to just make something, bigger, right?
In fact, the fictional one had to like contrive ways of making the pilot a flawed person instead of like the real life Sullenberger, who really is a hero. Like no matter how they tried to spin it, they couldn't spin it because the guy was so airtight.
Right. And the thing that I like about Flight is that it to me, again, the psychology. Here's a man with serious learned, like a very difficult childhood, a very difficult early developmental issues that then led to his
Thank you.
Yes.
Cryptid.
I love their videos. That's absolutely like a guilty pleasure of mine. So anyways, so I so he's got these issues. He has substance dependence, and despite this, he's able to do an amazing thing, saving and rescuing the plane to limit the harm. And then you always wonder what would it have been had he been sober. And it leads to a come to Jesus moment that I hope all of us in a healthy way experience in our lives, that cause us to really reflect on ourselves and grow from these opportunities, right? And become better people. And so it to me, it's a great movie in that, I mean, it's not the best movie in general, but it's a good movie. I really liked it. And from a psychological perspective, it's something that I hope is a cautionary tale, as they say. Yay! Like Tug's video that he linked out, like the things that we hate to hear, right? That it's a cautionary tale. I had to throw it out there. That we learn from and do. Yeah, please do. That we incorporate into our own lives and grow from and reflect on ourselves. So we can.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I actually haven't seen either movie. I just know about them. I think I saw the first like 10 minutes of Flight because they released it before the movie for some reason. I mean, but yeah, if I ever have a come to Jesus moment, it should look either like Tom Hanks or Denzel Washington. That's what I expect Jesus would be. Somewhere in between the two.
Yeah, Flight has Flight has a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Sully is 84. So they're both really good movies. And definitely worth the watch.
Indy says both of them needed more snakes.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about the third one of this movie series. Actually, Indy, you're right. That's a disaster movie.
That is a disaster movie.
Who put all these snakes on a plane? That was great. Indy, you made my year.
You glorious bastard.
Anybody else have anything to say about these movies? Because, like I said, I haven't
seen either of them. I did see snips of, Sully and little bits of Flight here and there, but yeah, both look like decent movies. I haven't had a chance to see them though. So.
I recently saw Plane, but that's totally different. Yes, Indy got the mic drop moment.
What Tug's talking about there is that he stepped outside and he saw something in the air and he goes, plane.
That's what he said. De-plane, boss. De-plane.
I don't know what it is lately about these like movies about planes that have really simple titles like Plane and Flight.
Yeah, right.
The next one's gonna be Sky. Actually, I do think they are making a sequel to Plane, and it's called something like that. It's called something like Boat or something. I don't remember, but I heard that.
Gyrocopter.
Okay, well, that's you, Thrash. Go.
Oh, cool. I am torn between two.
Ship. That's what it's called. Thank you, Vim.
Look what I say. What I do. I am going to pick the greater of two disasters, and I'm going to make a case for this big disaster film. I'm picking The Wicker Man, and I rush to say before anyone can ask. Yes, the 1973 version. I don't recognize.
Not the bees.
I don't. That is not even a film in my book. It did not happen. But yes, the 1973 version, and of course, the disaster in this case is a crop failure, which throughout the course of human history is a pretty big deal. We tend to minimize that because now with things like shipping, if an area does have something in the way of a disaster, relief efforts can get to them and they're not as quite as their own. But traditionally, if the crops failed, you died. And that's up until the early 20th century. Perhaps even later.
I think we talked about the Grapes of Wrath in the first part. Yeah.
Exactly. So I decided to go with that theme. Only if this is a little more H.P. Lovecraftian, or the concept is this crop failure takes place.
You're right, Jim. There are a lot of versions. England, sorry,
and they're they still worship a pagan religion, And long story short, there's a murder on the island, so they call in the sea cop. There's a cop who was a seaplane who takes care of crimes along on the little islands that fillets along the coast. And long and short of it, the whole plan is they bring him there so they can have a human sacrifice, which is a more traditional way of solving famines. Thankfully, we don't revert to human sacrifice in this day and age. But I thought it was an excellent premise. The idea, it's like the lottery. It's amazing, even
Very
though
much so. Yeah.
we see ourselves as so far removed and so above it. In fact, the first 3/4 of this movie is he was the equalizer. Woodward. Is it Woodward is the actor's name? But he's this modern police chief, and he just goes around like, oh, look at you with your silly pagan traditions. You're so silly. You're so silly. It's like if it was filmed in another country, he would be considered the white savior type. And he's just
Woodward, you're right. Edward Woodward. That's
Edward
hard to
Woodward,
say.
thank you.
Mhm.
And he's so above it all. But in the end, well, he gets his comeuppance. But it just seems so remarkably easy that such a what we would consider to be a very outdated tradition could still take place in a modern setting and have it be a modern setting. I mean, if it wasn't for their pagan rituals, you'd think it was just any other rural English community.
Yeah, because I mean, they seem like normal people, a little culty, but still normal. You know, like they seem like people. They don't seem
Provincial.
like they do
seem a
seem
little
provincial, right?
yeah. But yeah, it just I always thought that it just worked.
Whereas
on
in the
so many
Nicolas
levels.
Cage version, they're not really people. And there's a bear suit for some reason. It's very strange.
Well, honey,
The bees.
honey bears. Not the bees, not the bees, not the bees.
I low-key love that movie, the remake.
Oh, it's a free country.
Not because I think it's a good movie. I just like it because it's such a train wreck. It is a disaster. But yeah, the original is a fantastic film. And I like that it's one of those movies that is what it says on the tin. Like there is a Wicker Man, and you may spend most of the movie trying to figure out what the heck that means, but once you find out what it means, yeah, that's the movie. That's what it's about.
Well, the funny thing is, when I first saw it, I had no idea about the whole Wicker Man. I had heard about the Battle of Teutoburg Forest,
Right.
so I knew about the idea of putting people in wicker cages, lighting them on fire. But the idea of a pagan icon, and for the sole purpose of a sacrifice by fire, I didn't know what that was until I saw the movie. So it was kind of kabloo.
And yes, you're right, Vim. They're Scottish, not English.
I'm terribly sorry. You're absolutely correct.
Hey, don't put us English in that. Don't put that evil on us.
But yes,
Scotland.
Midsummer is a much better, like, looked at as a remake of The Wicker Man than the actual remake of The Wicker Man.
Never seen Midsummer. I'm gonna have to check it out solely on that
Yeah.
on that premise. Well, right.
I'm not going to talk about it. I could talk about Midsummer all day long, so I'm not going
I
to.
haven't seen it, but
It's,
right
I
down to
haven't
the
seen
fact
it.
that
I want to.
the pagans even present him with the moral conundrum. Just as Christ sacrificed himself for the world, you're giving yourself an opportunity to sacrifice yourself for us.
Right.
Take it. And he's like, I don't want to. But it shows the whole parallels. It actually brings it back to Christianity.
Also, Christopher Lee. Let's not neglect to mention Christopher Lee's in
And
The
the
Wicker Man.
patriarch. No, he's absolutely amazing. And is Susan George the
Let me look it up. I think
talk
you're
about me
right.
being a dirty old man again? I believe it's Susan George.
No, I don't think it is actually.
Oh, she was in Straw Dogs, not Wicker Man.
Oh yeah.
That'd be a great double feature. Straw
That would
Dogs
be a
and
good
Wicker
one.
Man.
That would be very brutal by the end. It's very bleak. Ah,
That ain't hay.
yeah. Britt Eklund. Thank you, Sean. I was getting to it. She's Willow. Yeah.
She sure is.
Willow. Okay, Damien, your turn.
All right. I'm gonna go with Earthquake, 1974.
Ah, there you go. See, you
Yeah.
mentioned Roland Emmerich. Now we got to talk about
Yeah.
Erwin Allen.
So yeah, good movie. It kind of follows the whole, disaster formula movie with lots of little side stories going on all at once. There's multiple people, multiple main characters all having their own little multiple disasters within the film.
It's like the template of a disaster movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's the template of it's almost like it's actually quite similar to 2012 in a lot of ways.
Well,
Or 2012 is similar to this, I should say. So yeah, it starts out with scientists warning of impending disaster. Of course, well, it doesn't really start with that. It starts out with, crazy wife having mental issues, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, goes into, the scientist warning of pending disaster. The mayor doesn't want to really do anything about it other than tell the National Guard, doesn't want to, panic the citizens. Even though had he done that, maybe they could have been prepared. But anyway, rolling into the actual earthquake happening and, all of the disaster that ensues in all of these different people's lives. And some of the interesting little themes that you see in there is like, well, for one, leaders being afraid to be responsible, and then other people that abusing their authority and going way too far, where like the National Guard sergeant or whatever he was, tries to rape that woman at one point in the movie, and just things like that. All of the little stories in between, the heroism that happens when they have to save people from the underground parking lot before the wave gets there, before the water gets there from the reservoir collapsing, and yada yada yada. Lots of little intertwined stories, and everything kind of comes together in the end. It's just and just the breakdown of society that occurs during it. The hospital overflowing into the parking lot kind of thing, and the lobbies, and doctors and people there not being able to tell anybody what's going on or where anybody is. We'll get to them eventually. It's just. Yeah, it's good movie. Very, very good movie. I know it is well respected in the long run as far as older disaster movies go. At the time, it was a kind of like a blockbuster at the time. So, but I'm not sure what kind of ratings it has long term.
yeah, I think at the
100%.
at the original at the time it came
Mhm.
out, like I
Mhm.
think the critics were kind of about it.
Mhm.
They liked the special effects, and that's about it, according to
Yeah.
Wikipedia, apparently. So yeah, but like that movie has a hell of an
44%,
ensemble. Like
yeah.
there's so many great actors in it. You got
Mhm.
Charlton Heston, Genevieve Bujold, you got Shaft, Richard Roundtree,
Yeah, right.
Ava Gardner.
George
Like just the
George
list
Kennedy.
goes on. George Kennedy,
Mhm.
yeah. Walter Matthau.
You major.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So good.
Lorne Green.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a classic, man. That is
Mhm.
an absolute classic. And that's a double feature with Poseidon Adventure. You should absolutely watch those two things
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. For sure.
I like Donald Moffat. Oh, I love.
yeah.
Like yeah.
I don't know why critics didn't like that movie.
They just
I thought it
poo-pooed
was
it because
good.
it was popular. It was the 70s. If it wasn't like dour, depressing, and low budget,
Yeah.
they didn't
Or
like it. I
artsy or
think.
something. Yeah.
Critics in the 70s really had that stick up there.
Mhm.
Anyway, anybody else have anything else to say about Earthquake?
No, it's a great movie. I haven't seen it in years though.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I like the skyscraper scene where they're lowering people down on the fire hose, and was it Charlton Heston that was part of that scene? I can't remember. It's been a minute since.
Is it better than The Rock with one leg jumping out of a skyscraper onto another skyscraper?
Yes.
What was that movie
Oh.
called? I think that movie was called Skyscraper or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
It's terrible. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Don't watch that one. Wasn't there another one? Whoa, that's one that I wanted to watch that I haven't seen, but Towering Inferno.
Oh yeah, the Towering
Yeah.
Inferno. That's the one with
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson in it.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a toy for that. It was literally
Mhm.
it was a cardboard cutout of a skyscraper, and there was a battery operated motor on the bottom. When you hit it, it would wobble and play the soundtrack. I actually had that toy.
Yeah, if you're gonna watch a disaster movie with The Rock, watch San Andreas. It is way better than Skyscraper. And it's also way better than Rampage, which we talked about.
Yeah.
I loved that game too. I loved that game.
It's a great game.
It was a great game.
What was that movie with The Rock where he was a police officer in a small town or something? Standing Tall? Was it that?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that a remake?
It was a remake of one with Joe Don Baker.
Yeah,
Baker. Yeah.
That one actually wasn't that bad.
Well, it's based on a real story. It was very loosely based, but on this small town sheriff who runs afoul of gangsters. Really,
OJ started the fire.
Indy says, in retrospect, I'm pretty sure OJ started the fire. Well, we didn't start the fire, so
yeah, it's been burning. Was OJ wearing the gloves when he started the fire, or was he?
Hey,
they were kitchen gloves.
It didn't. Hey, to all of you, it didn't fit. So the fire wasn't started by him. You must have quit.
You must have quit.
Well, at least we don't have to worry about him.
All right, yeah.
Too soon?
No. Too late, if anything.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yay.
Okay, well, we're getting really close to the hour and a half mark. I wasn't paying attention to the time, so I'm going to go ahead and give you my last one, and then we'll go around and do like the rest of our lists.
Should we do a part 5?
No.
Because again, we're only getting like 3 or 4. We could do. I know. There's
Fine, rapid fire. I can see.
We'll do rapid fire. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do rapid fire.
Please,
right after
one more.
Yeah.
I have to hear you one more.
Okay, the one more, and it leads into what topic I've chosen for 2 weeks from now. And that is Gremlins. One of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. Gremlins is a disaster movie because the entire town gets wrecked. It gets destroyed. They ruin everything. They kill lots of people. It's a horror show. I mean, it's a goofy comedy, but it's also like a horror movie for kids. It's also a Christmas movie with the most depressing Christmas story ever told, where Phoebe Cates talks about her dad in the chimney. It's like that and R-Tax from Neverending Story are like my 2 childhood traumas.
Bob Rivers has a song on his comedy Christmas comedy album called "There's Something in the Attic," and I don't know what it is, and it's been there all year long or whatever. And like,
I thought it was "There's Something in the Chimney," and I don't know what it is.
There's something in the chimney. I mean, that's what it was. Something in the chimney.
There's something in the chimney, and I don't know what it is.
I posted on the social media. Phoebe Cates. It's not Christmas until Phoebe Cates talks about her dad with that song playing. I had to. I'm gonna have to do it again next year too. And like, it's just. Sorry. You brought that up, and it's just this, like the fact that the 2 perfect. Anyways.
I talked about this movie at length in my podcast with Lynn, The Streaming Heap, last Christmas. And I've also done a bonus video on my Patreon about it, asking whether or not it's xenophobic. Spoiler alert, it's not.
I can see the argument, though.
Yeah, the argument makes sense, but once you actually like pick apart the movie and really dig deep into like the analytics of it, like I do because I'm broken like that, it's not really. Also, I wasn't able to cover it on my main channel because no matter how hard I tried to squeeze it into sci-fi, I couldn't do it. But I do have this one, which is definitely sci-fi, and I think I am going to be covering it very soon. But no, Gremlins as a disaster movie, like the whole idea of this like perfect Americana Spielbergian just small town being destroyed and like, you know, the movie theater gets blown up. The crotchety old lady who is like landlording over everybody gets thrown out the window by the Gremlins, and the mall Santa gets wrecked by the Gremlins and killed. The bar gets destroyed. Mr. Futterman, who is xenophobic, gets killed. I don't know, like the idea of this perfect nuclear family style Norman Rockwell life getting wrecked by the 80s and consumerism. I mean, like, it's pretty on the nose, and I really love that about it. As much as of a dirty capitalist as I am, I still appreciate movies like this. Like, I don't know, like just the idea of the perfect picturesque world being ruined by forces beyond our understanding. I think that's like a perfect disaster movie. So yeah, Gremlins.
Well,
Love that movie.
It illustrates something that we've already known, that we found out firsthand during the 2020s, but we've always known our society is a house of cards.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it would take really comparatively little to just undermine it from top to bottom. And one day all your petty little problems, which seem so important, mean nothing. As they say, stuff got real. And that's the great thing about Gremlins. It was like one day, well, oh, look at this new little thing we've introduced into our ecosystem, and the next day it's like, oh dear Lord.
But honestly, as evil as the Gremlins were, they didn't want to kill the dog. Deagle, Mrs. Deagle, she did want to kill the dog. She's the true villain of the picture.
Yes. Agreed.
Nice.
Well, just that thing where she tells the sick mother in front of her two small children that she's not going to cut them any slack and throw them on the street.
It's Christmas.
And the little girl, the little girl says, "I'm hungry, mommy," and the mother says, "I know, I'm hungry too." And you're just like, I want to, and I know you were Flo on the TV show Alice, and everybody loved Flo on Alice, but I wanted to reach for the screen and snap her bougie neck. I'm like, oh, I hate you so much. And then, of course, what's she doing? It's like, oh, what was that BBC TV series, Tanko, about the prison camp, where the women are starving, but the lady's giving eggs and milk to her cat.
Yeah.
And you find out that she's like throwing humans into the street, but she's treating her cats with luxury. Damien, no offense. And I'm just
Morris, don't listen. Don't listen. He's leaving now.
Don't get me wrong. Cats are noble animals, but why would you treat them with luxury while you're letting your own people basically die of exposure? And,
it's the toxoplasmosis.
Yeah, it is.
How do I fixate on her? I'm not sure why. I think I'm having an ethics of conflict with them.
Well, Mrs. Deagle was also a cat lady. Like her house was filled to the brim with cats. There was
and she doted on them.
100 of them. And yeah, she doted on them.
But people meant nothing to her. But I don't know how I fixated on that. Oh, well, I'm trying a valid reason at one point. I was gone for a moment. Now I'm back.
Oh. No, I'm not going to bash Gremlins 2. When I talk about it on my channel, I'm going to give it love and attention because it's like the Mad Magazine version of Gremlins. It's great. No,
it's great.
Freaking love it.
Gremlins 2 is awesome.
Tony Randall was really needed in that movie. I mean, absolutely. I think he
My favorite scene in Gremlins, the first one, is when the mother goes into the kitchen and all the gremlins are in there, and she just owns them.
She goes Rambo on them, man.
She's just like, "You're messing up my house." I just like turns on the
pushes the one in the microwave.
Yeah,
juicer.
The juicer was it a blender or a juicer?
It's like a blender, something like that. Yeah.
Turns on the blender, splat. The one in the microwave.
And that movie has a cameo from Robbie the Robot, so
That's right, it does. Yeah, at the convention or whatever. Yeah,
I generally don't use it. It promotes rust.
I just love like that movie did kind of ruin fried chicken for me a little bit.
Because they're eating it,
and it's because they're just like go in and turn it, and they they're just turning it into like the monsters and stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to do that, and so
to this day, I'll never eat fried chicken after midnight.
I know, there's part of me that's like a little bit like
it turns you into gooey little snot balls.
I know, right? I'm like, there's just something I feel wrong about this, but no, I loved that movie, and that especially as a kid and you're watching it, it is such a great I think child appropriate horror movie. And there's so much
by
that
80s
is
standards,
great.
which were different.
Yeah.
Yes. But like, yeah. Like compared to like the Nightmare on Elm Street that I was watching and probably shouldn't have. But it is a great introduction to me for younger people into the genre of horror, because horror can be such a beautiful genre because of that activation of the sympathetic nervous system and that, you know, feeling on edge and, you know, in a safe way, feeling in danger, right? But being safe at the same time. And so it's like a roller coaster without the risk of like death. And so of these amusement park rides, it's safer than even those. But you get those thrills. And so I really, really love it. It's a great movie. Tug, great. You're 100%. It is a disaster movie, but it also like fits into that creature feature kind of thing.
Yep, because the next topic we're going to cover is creature features, which there will obviously be overlap. We've talked about alien invasions and we're talking about disaster movies. There's a lot of that in creature features, obviously.
Yeah.
So if we repeat ourselves, that's fine. We're allowed to. I make the rules. You don't.
There's one more classic example of the disaster film in Gremlins, which I'm surprised we haven't touched on in all the other films. Generally speaking, there's a warning sign to the people in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Something's about to go down. Make allowances for this potential disaster. In Gremlins, it's the Pandora conundrum. I'll give you 3 rules, and the last one is the most important. So if you ignore the other 2, just listen to this last rule. And I remember watching the movie as a kid. Say it's like in The Young Ones. I bet someone does violate all 3 of those rules, particularly the 3rd one, and hilarity ensues. And sure enough, but yet in literally all the disaster movies I could think of, they saw it coming, and just basically, And
they even like ignored
the
warning signs. They ignored the warning signs. And even after it started, you know, you had those 2 cops that were drunk on eggnog and just they wouldn't believe it was happening until they saw Santa die right in front of them.
Thresh, you bring up such a great point, because if you think about human nature, like we know up here what we need to do in order to be safe. We're given warning signs throughout our lives. And yet, you know, I always say that the largest distance in the entire universe are the millimeters between the frontal lobe and the limbic system, right? That deep emotional kind of construct, right? Those millimeters, because we know things here, but knowing it here is a totally different concept, right?
When I worked retail, the best way I had to get rid of somebody is, okay, guys, new rule. This comes from corporate. If you do this, it's instant termination. So please don't do that. The next day,
yeah, of course.
Okay, you're gone. If I hadn't told them, I wouldn't have been able to get rid of them. It's amazing how much that works.
That's also like, it's also screenwriting 101. If like in the first act of a movie, you list like rules, like, and it's usually 3, those 3 rules are going to be broken by the end of the movie. It's like LA Confidential. You know, he tells Guy Pearce, don't beat a confession out of anybody. Don't plant evidence. Don't shoot anybody in the back. And by the end of the movie, Guy Pearce has done all 3 of those things. It's that kind of thing. Anyway. I guess now we'll go around.
Keith,
just real quick.
Can you post Keith's,
real quick. Keith,
can you post Keith's, because that's a great call.
What, Labyrinth? Is that a disaster movie?
Is it?
How is Labyrinth a disaster movie?
I'm thinking.
Never mind. Okay, sorry. I liked it, but yeah.
Oh,
it's a good
I
movie,
love
but
Labyrinth. It's a great movie,
I
but
love Labyrinth.
I'm just not
disaster
sure how it's a
Sorry.
disaster movie.
Sorry.
I mean,
Okay, my bad.
It's
my
a
bad,
modern
my
fairy
fault.
tale, possibly rom-com. And I love Jennifer Connelly.
Yes.
Talk about the dirty old man bit.
All right, my bad.
And she's like 17 in that movie. Just saying.
I think I might have been thinking of,
Just saying.
my bad, my fault. That was
Whatever.
you know what? I'm high on caffeine, so just ignore me. Go ahead.
And you know, I'm a heterosexual man, but David Bowie also very sexy in that movie.
Well, yeah. And that Dance Magic Dance song is just, I still sing it to myself.
Yeah,
some
it gets
days.
stuck in your head real
Absolutely.
easily.
It is. It's an
Absolutely.
earworm, but
My apologies.
So,
my apologies.
Let's go ahead and do the rest of our lists. We'll just go ahead and start, Scott. Just list off a couple more.
Okay.
You don't have to go down your whole 80 movie list. Just like the ones you were going to talk about.
So I want to bring up Jurassic Park,
Oh yeah.
Super 8,
Yeah.
The World's End,
Oh yeah.
12 Monkeys.
Hmm.
All good. Yep.
Let me just go through, like, I'm just going to skip some of them. Airplane, we kind of touched on that, but we didn't really like talk about that one at length. And Sharknado. I got to bring that up. Like, I have to.
Didn't we bring that up last time?
I think we did
Anyway.
mention it. I
No,
don't know if we
no,
actually talked about
I don't.
it.
No. We talked about it afterward.
Oh, that's
We talked about it
right. That's
afterwards.
right.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I
you're
mentioned
right.
So,
Birdemic. It's
um,
almost the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember. Did we talk about Armageddon Time?
Armageddon Time? I don't
Yeah.
think so.
No.
Okay, Armageddon Time, and then you know what? I'm gonna throw. I know it's kind of odd, but I'm gonna throw Oppenheimer because, like, you drop it. It wasn't massive global destruction, but you drop a nuclear bomb on that is a disaster. And when you look at, like, you know, and to me, I know it doesn't focus on that aspect of, like, but like the lead up of our rationalizations to do again that concept of our science and technology outpacing our morals and values. I think that's a great, you know, warning movie of what human can
Birdemic
can
gets
do.
the My Flock seal of approval, by the way.
Nice. Okay, sorry. All right, go ahead, Thrash.
okay, Thrash's list. Quintet with Paul Newman, Robert Altman's film.
Ooh.
Mm.
Haven't seen that in a
Uh,
dog's age.
Chosen Survivors.
Never heard of it.
But, I'll just give the premise really quickly.
Yeah.
There's a threat of a nuclear war, so a group of scientists who will be needed to rebuild the Earth are hustled into a military fallout shelter, only to find the cavern it's built in has been taken over by mutant bats.
Oh.
Hmm.
Okay.
Great,
Interesting.
great movie.
Isn't that the plot
Um,
of Fallout 76?
They may have
Anyway.
stolen it for that. They may
Okay,
have-
yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. They steal from pop culture all the time.
The Birds.
Yeah, we talked about that last
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
No, great.
But great choice. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
Hitchcock is never wrong.
That's lingered with me all week long. That
Well, not to
welcome.
mention in the story. In the story, it's not just in this one community. It's like a global thing. Like the radios are going offline. and
Right,
stuff.
right.
That's true.
So,
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was really cool. Kingdom of Spiders with William Shatner.
Good one.
Oh.
Good one.
I had to. And Oni Baba.
Ooh, another good one I would not have thought of on my own. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Just real quick. Volcano from 1997.
oh,
Of course, I think we mentioned it previously, but not really discussed it.
Yeah.
The Perfect Storm, which is kind of, you know, it's a disaster movie.
No, definitely.
Definitely. I
We
can't believe I didn't think of
discussed,
it.
or we mentioned Armageddon, but never really discussed it. How It Ends, 2018. They never really say whether it was an earthquake, a volcano, an asteroid, or what. But
It's like in 7 Days to Die.
sort
It's
of,
all of them.
yeah. But that was a really good movie. I liked that one a lot. Let's see, The Mist, which is, you know, science gone awry, opening up some sort of portal into another dimension or something.
God, that ending. Jesus.
Oh God, yeah, that one. Yeah, it's horrible. Oh,
That's talk about
Yeah.
bleak. Yeah.
yeah. Let me see, Gravity.
That one, yep.
Oh, yeah,
That was
yeah,
on my
that's-
list. Yep.
And did we discuss This Is the End?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. So leave you some there.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, taking out the ones that other people have mentioned, like World's End and Gravity. I still have
Mhm.
a few others. One I really wanted to talk about was Sum of All Fears, the Jack Ryan movie with Ben Affleck and Morgan Freeman, where Baltimore gets nuked. Like,
Yeah.
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 that is That's
Good
a
movie.
disaster, absolutely. The Quiet Earth, which is more of a post-apocalyptic movie, but I still think it counts.
It sure does. It's a great movie.
Yeah. And the only other thing I have on my list is the HBO miniseries Chernobyl. Because holy cow, is that a good thing? Like a good show, like a good series.
Yes.
Terrible thing, but great series. So yeah, that's
No,
the
it
end
was
of
a
my
good
list.
thing.
Chernobyl was not a good thing.
It helped bring down the Soviet Union. It was a good thing.
And Jared Harris has quickly become one of my favorite actors. I mean, I will now forever think of him as Harry Seldon because he's great in that role, but he's also fantastic in Chernobyl. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of our list.
What's
Oh, wait.
there's one because I was leaving it because I thought someone would. What was the Robert Redford movie where he's on a boat?
Robert Redford on a boat.
Uh,
Indy, come on.
Give me a second. Sorry, I had it on my list. I can't find it right now.
Mr. Roberts. I don't know. Mr. Roberts.
All is lost. All is lost. That's another one I think is really, really good. That needs to be. I was leaving that for someone else, but
have not seen that.
yeah, all is lost, and it's a perfect title for a disaster movie. All is lost.
It is.
Yes, thank you, Indy.
Now, Vim actually came up with it first.
Oh, Vim. Oh, okay, yes, thank you, Vim.
But yes, Indy also got it. I was thinking older, like older movie Robert Redford, like younger Robert Redford. This was apparently from like 2012 or something. So yeah. Okay. So like I said, in 2 weeks we will talk about creature features. And in about 14 minutes, if you missed the beginning, I've got the grand concatenation of all my Outer Limits season 1 reviews coming out in one video. And then next week I've got Superman 2, which I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully I can keep that video under half an hour, but we'll see. And yeah, that's about it. Harold has some things to promote, I'm sure. Go for it, Harold.
Yeah, so every day I've been doing for the past since the 12th National Loving Day, I've been posting videos about things that are different than me that I absolutely love, that I feel enrich me. So it's kind of like this understanding of an appreciation of differences, things that we aren't, so that we can recognize, differences and come together. And then
He starts with that guy who wrote that book he showed us earlier.
yeah. He's a nice guy. You might like him. So, but like,
I'm sure I have a lot in common.
Thursday, I dropped my trailer for Run for Your Life. I hope everybody likes that one. I put a lot of effort into that one. Then I'm re-editing my first Hatter Chat on forgiveness, and so I'm gonna put that out because it was on my old channel. And so, and by the way, I accidentally nuked my YouTube channel. So if you were a subscriber to me, please subscribe to my new channel. I was trying to get rid of two. I had 2 accounts on this one email, and I was trying to get rid of the other one, and I accidentally just got rid of both. So, yeah. And so if you were a subscriber to me, make sure that you subscribe to my new one. I'm reposting all of my videos and stuff, and still putting out new stuff. So,
okay, and Thrash.
Well, I have my live chat tonight at 7:30, and tonight's is going to be a special Father's Day episode.
Nice.
And everyone is invited. Oh, also, I'm currently at 397 followers. I just need three little teeny tiny more subscribers to get to 400. And I'm sure all of you guys already have, but you know what? Talk to a friend. Someone out there must have not subscribed yet.
Well, if we can just get Damien's cats to subscribe, that'll get you the 3 you need.
Well, maybe I can set them up with some email addresses. We can make that happen. Yeah,
that's right.
Even after my anti-cat propaganda from earlier, I'm sorry.
I don't think Morris is ever gonna, forgive you for that one.
Right.
Okay, and thank you, and
Thank you,
Damien. Do you have anything to promote? Because
No, not
you're
today.
so
Thank you.
terminally
Yeah.
online.
Yeah. I live in the real world. I'm sorry.
Yeah, have fun with that.
He's building a house. He's giving people shelter. So
He works for a living. So.
I know, right?
Yeah, I have a job. I mean,
I tell that to my
Just kidding.
doctor when he
Just
tells me
kidding,
to like
guys.
when my doctor tells me to stop doing this or give up that. I go, hey, man, I have a job. Keeping me alive is your problem.
Right.
Isn't
Yeah,
that the
I like
truth?
that.
Isn't that the
Right.
truth?
Yeah.
Tell that to my doctor.
that is man, that is a daily discussion for me with people. It's just like, you know what? I get it. We're oppressed too much to be able to really like to focus, because life sometimes that's again. And also, hey, y'all, support these small local, like these small independent YouTube channels, because they are doing all of the work. When you look at things like Mr. Beast or these large channels, they have editors and all of these groups that are doing all the work for them, so they don't devote so much of their life to this, right? And a lot of these small YouTube channels also work, right? Like also have jobs, also have families, also have the right. And so like they're balance all of this together. And the more that we support one another, the more that we support all of these channels, the more we make it so that they can do the entertainment that we love. Cut off the cable, cut off like and the YouTube entertainment is actually exceptional. There's some exceptional quality out there. So really, y'all, like, yeah, check it out and subscribe and watch the videos. So
And comment,
do
because if
great
it's a
work.
smaller YouTuber, they'll actually read the comment. Whereas if you comment on
Yes!
the Mr. Beast thing, nobody's going to read that.
That's right. Definitely not him. Someone might, right? He might have hired someone to chat
Oh, God.
to you.
What a
to
horrible job that would be.
you, right? But
Nothing but
You know,
comment section.
I've
Huh.
I've actually stopped going to some sites because I'll put on these very intelligent, articulate, poignant comments, and no one ever gets back to me. And I'm like, I'm wasting my freaking time. I get better results
Absolutely.
on Facebook. You know?
And
Absolutely.
yeah. And Sarah is right. I do occasionally pop up on her channel, where my flock is everywhere, where I say words that I don't say here. I am much less filtered on that channel, and something I say on there is probably going to get me canceled someday. I can hope, because that means I got big.
that's right. Take it, man. Right?
And last but not least, just happy Father's Day again to all the fathers out there. Yeah. And I don't really have an outro except, always stuff about what you love and all that stuff.
As long as you're not hurting anyone.
As long as you're not hurting anybody. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the
Ciao
part
for
that Jeffrey
now.
Dahmer forgot.
Or blood from a boy.
But
and
he
his
carried
dog.
them with him always. So
Okay, anyway, I'm gonna sign off now because we're almost at 2 hours now.
Yeah.
This one really, really long, but we had to finish
Sorry,
it out.
sorry.
We just had to. Okay, again, bye.